Welcome to Destination Business Freedom, hosted by Pat Mancuso. Join us as we explore success strategies and hacks from leading entrepreneurs, helping you bridge the gap between financial success and personal freedom. Your journey starts here.
Thank you for joining us today on Destination Business Freedom. I am Pat Mancuso, the host of our podcast, where we interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners who have exited their business or are on that journey. My goal is to help small to medium-sized business owners close the gap between their finances and their freedom, and ultimately define that destination, the address that they want to arrive at when they exit their business or even transition out of it. A sponsorship message real quick. This episode is brought to you by the Mancuso Consulting Group, where we are committed to helping entrepreneurs and business owners close the gap between their finances and freedom. The Mancuso method was created by Pat Mancuso, and it encompasses over 30 years of ownership of multiple businesses and the work with thousands of entrepreneurs and business owners. He helps them rise above the daily grind and arrive at their desired destination, which is the reason most business owners started a business in the first place. If you're interested, go to www.themancuso.com. And when you go there, you'll take a short assessment. That assessment then will allow you to schedule a 30-minute call with Pat. And in that call, he'll review your roadmap that's created from that short assessment. And his guarantee is this. In that 30-minute call, he'll demonstrate and add to you $10,000 more of value. And if he doesn't, he'll write you a check for $500 on the spot. So go to www.themancuso.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited about our guest today. He comes highly recommended, and I've done a lot of research, and I know that he's going to contribute to you and me today as an entrepreneur. I'm going to introduce him to you right now. His name is Brett Gilliland. He is the founder and CEO of Elite Entrepreneurs, a company that specializes in giving $1 million plus business owners the knowledge, processes, and tools to grow to 10 million and beyond. As the leader of Elite Entrepreneurs, Brett has helped hundreds of struggling seven-figure business owners overcome their biggest challenges and achieve new levels of success. Brett can't think of anything else he'd rather be doing professionally, and I certainly agree. When Brett isn't busy helping those $1 million plus business owners succeed, he is a family man who enjoys spending time with his beautiful wife, Sharon. And get this, 8 children. Man, we got to talk about that, Brett. And one
you can talk about it all you want.
Yeah, there you go. And one grandbaby. So, Brett, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, Pat. From your introduction, for you and the show and what I do, it's easy to see we're not going to have any problems filling the time. We'll have plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you came recommended from Chris Fontaine, who joined our show, and Chris was referred to us by the folks at Rise 25. So we always know that those referrals in our shows are amazing guests. So, Brett, let's kick it off this way. I always like to start with when I have entrepreneurs and business owners on the show to say, where did your business ownership entrepreneur, where did you first get the itch to do this on your own or do this as part of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I know this isn't completely unique, but many of your listeners will have had that moment of I think Michael Gerber called it an entrepreneurial seizure, right? Where it's like, I sneezed or something, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going to be a business owner.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much shoved out of the nest. Which is different than me feeling like, I have this great idea. I want to start this thing. And it didn't happen that way for me. So hopefully I don't drag this out too long, but the origin of my business, Elite Entrepreneurs, was born inside of another company. Okay. And it was born out of our customers saying, teach us how you guys are growing so well. Teach us how you're finding all these amazing people. Like, you're growing fast, your culture's amazing, you're doing something right. The scaling thing, you guys seem to have figured it out. Teach us that. And so we're like, okay, yeah, well, we could put something together. So we put something together. It was really well received. We did it again, like it was a one-time, think of it as like a 2.5-day intensive or boot camp type of thing, sure, where we just said, here's the scaling playbook. Here are the things that we've done to make this work so well. And then it was well received, and we did it again, 6 months later. Then we started doing it every quarter. And then those people were like, thank you for sharing, but we need some ongoing help. So we built out a community and some coaching, and all of a sudden, within the success story company that we can talk more about here in a little bit, we had this $1.5 million teaching or training and coaching business, right? So it was a completely separate thing from what we were doing, but it was born out of the good work we had done to grow that other company. And then they were going to get rid of it because it wasn't core to their business. And I was like, well, that's who I am. That's what I helped them do in that other story we can talk about. And that's where I love teaching other business owners. So I bought it, we spun it out, and it's been on its own for the last 6 years now. But I was sort of pushed out of the nest and said, you're going to be a business owner. So I honor and respect the term entrepreneur so much that sometimes I hesitate to even call myself an entrepreneur because I didn't like scrape my face on the asphalt repeatedly trying to get this thing off the ground. Like it was born into existence pretty quickly, relatively easy. I mean, there was still work we had to do. But then when it went out on its own, I have hit my face on the pavement a few times, but it was like a well-funded startup. I had a customer base, I had a community, and I didn't have to like start it from zero. So anyway.
Well, here's what I love about that. So I'm gonna kind of unpack a couple of things there that you said. I remember I was doing an event, and I've got a pretty deep history in real estate, and I'm in a room with a bunch of real estate agents, and there was a gentleman in the room who had just gotten into real estate, and yet he had a second job. And it's kind of freaky how this happened, but you got to be really full time at what you're doing, no matter what it is, to be successful. At least that's my belief. And so, he was struggling with, should I come into real estate? And he was in the pharmaceutical industry, and he was making 150 grand or so. And he didn't know what to do. And I said, well, let me ask you this question. What if you lost your job tomorrow? What would you do? And he said, well, I'd come into real estate full time. And this is the freaky part. Like, he came back to the workshop next week and he had lost his job. So he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
He had to do that, right? So to me, what's interesting sometimes is people don't see the opportunities for being an entrepreneur, right? Actually be in front of them. And the second thing I want to tag on to that you said was, you had the benefit of having the customer base, and maybe it was a little bit easier than it might have otherwise been. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the fact of the matter is you still had to do it the right way within the organization, and you still had to fall, sometimes. So I'm kind of saying, to the listeners, don't underestimate even that opportunity inside your own organization to create something that could be pretty significant that you don't even realize.
Yeah. The truth of the matter is we did create something, and I had a huge hand in creating that.
Yeah.
And then, to say, I'm going to take it and run with it. That was a risk on my part to do that. And so, I am an entrepreneur. It just came really late in my life and unexpectedly. But there's still some runway and some
absolutely.
good things happening.
Absolutely.
Yes,
well, you're probably going to have more grandbabies, so you've got to kind of make some more income if you made float those college deals down the road. You got plenty of work to do.
Yes, sir. I got a lot of work to do.
Well, so Brett, let me ask you this. In that journey, like, were there things that you kind of questioned, like, why am I doing this? Was this really the right decision? Was there a time when that happened? And if there was, how did you kind of have that conversation in your head?
Well, there wasn't really any question for me as to whether or not it was the right thing to take this business and buy it and spin it out. It was so clear to me at the time. It was like, there's what I had come to do at that other company was to help them scale. I was brought in to help them scale their culture, scale in an effective way, help them succeed. And when I joined, we were at 7 figures, and I helped them grow to 100 million. And that was an amazing journey. We learned a lot together. I brought some value to the table. It wasn't all me, but I got I got to do what I do well with them and for them. And it's exactly because of that journey that the opportunity for my business came about, right? Our customers were seeing how well we were doing it and said, hey, start teaching us that stuff. So there was no question for me. Now, for my wife, there was a lot of question. We already talked about the 8 mouths that I had to feed.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, right? And so,
Yeah.
she liked the steady
Oh,
income,
sure.
or feeling the really false sense of security. Anybody who's employed, like your pharmacist friend, right? Like anybody
Right.
who's employed becomes addicted to that paycheck and those benefits and the predictability to some extent. But I didn't have any question in my mind that we could do something that would provide for my family as well as I was before, if not more, right? I saw additional opportunity. So I wasn't concerned, but she was, and that
Yeah.
was hard for us to, help me assure her. And
Yeah.
thankfully, over the last 6 years, we've not done worse ever than we did before. And some years we've done significantly better, right? So anyway, it's all
Well,
worked out well.
that's an important piece, right? I mean, it does take two in this journey, and it doesn't mean there's two in the business, right? But it does take two if you're in a relationship, and it because there's another party involved, right?
That's right.
And you might be the entrepreneur, the risk taker, and you might be in a relationship with somebody who is not, and it doesn't make it right, wrong, bad, or good. It's just they look at things differently. So let me ask you this question. In this journey, I know you've had a ton of success. And so is there one kind of situation? I'm sure there's more than one, but one that really rises to the top in that journey of success that maybe surprised you or you weren't expecting?
Um, yeah, I was ready with my answer until you said that maybe surprised me or that I wasn't expecting. So I'm going to cheat on this question
That's okay.
because
No, that's good. Yeah.
yeah, because I studied organizational behavior. So I got a business undergrad. I got a master's in organizational behavior, which is really, you just think of that as like somebody who knows what makes organizations tick, or how you look at and move parts of a system, an organization, to get different results, right? So that's me. I'm an organization geek. And so I go into this company that had something great, and they had raised some money and we're going to really try to grow it. And I felt like I had something to bring to the table. There was a great foundation in place. It
Sure.
was awesome. So I didn't have to like go fix a bunch of stuff, which made it even better. But I knew the moment I went in, we could be recognized as a great place to work nationally. Like I just had this feeling like we could create something truly unique. And so I remember putting in the application for the first time. This is the Great Place to Work Institute. They've got a whole program and survey all your employees, and give us the package of what demonstrates that you guys are very intentional with how you're building your team and your culture. And anyway, I was so sure. I put the whole package together. I submitted it, and we didn't. Not only did we not win, like we didn't even make the long list, right? Like it was just like not it. I was
Right.
like, you've got to be kidding me. And that was the biggest moment of awakening. To that point in my career, I was like, you know what? That's completely on me. I
Yeah.
underestimated the job that I had to help other people understand what we had built.
Sure.
And so the next year I went back at it. We did make it. We were in the top 25 best small workplaces in America, and I just felt justified. Not
Right.
because we had created something more special in that 12 months, because we added all the time. So I'm sure it was even better at that point. But
Sure.
because my ability to help other people see it clearly went up, and I did that in a way that anyway, we got that recognition. We were on it for a couple of years, and it just felt good. It was like, yeah, we're winning as a business,
Yeah.
and it's because of the intentional effort we've put into our people and the way we lead, and the processes and systems we built. and the recognition isn't the goal, but the
Right.
recognition acknowledges that you did something right. And it helps to, in my case, I was trying to create a talent tractor beam. I wanted all the best people coming to us. And having that recognition was a huge help in our talent tractor beam. So that was a big win.
You point out, I think, the thing that we all have as entrepreneurs, right? We have blind spots. And sometimes we get so involved, or we're so, close to it, that we might not see it the way that somebody else might see it. And yet what I loved about what you said is your belief. Your belief is what brought you back to the table again, because you knew that you had a product and you knew that you had something that could be recognized. So I love that. So let's flip it. Biggest challenge, biggest failure, biggest opportunity to grow. What was that in your personal entrepreneurial journey?
So want to answer that. There's one more thing that I'm like embarrassingly proud of. I've been privileged to work in do a lot of good work and have a lot of wins and stuff. But
Yep.
Jim Collins is a name that many business people have heard of. He wrote a book a long time ago called Beyond Entrepreneurship. It's the first book he ever wrote. Nobody knows about it. And on the book it says James C. Collins. He didn't even go by Jim Collins back then. But he wrote it with his mentor Bill Lazier, who's since passed away. Anyway, through a series of events, we got connected with Jim Collins, and 10 of us from that success story I was telling you about, 10 of us got to spend 2 half-day sessions with him in his lab in Boulder, Colorado. It was a pricey privilege, right? But our CEO is like, yeah, we're going to pay that $75,000 for 2 half days. So we did, and it was incredible. And we told him what we were doing with our little scaling business of helping business owners scale. And we got all excited and said, wouldn't it be great to help these $1 to $10 million businesses be great from the start, instead of like built to last and good to great, like all these big companies. Like, how do you do this from the start?
Right.
And he wrote a book before then called Great by Choice, but we were really pushing him, saying, great from the start is what you ought to be doing next. That would be amazing. Anyway, we were passionate about it. He picked up on that. Long story short, he had a revision of that book that he called BE 2.0, for Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. And he did it in honor of his mentor who had since passed.
Wow.
So he wrote BE 2.0. So the long story, the proud moment for me is that, along with the other 75, 80 people that he thanked in the back of his book, he included my name and the CEO's name of that company. His name is Clayton Mask. As Clayton and I got to read his manuscript, give him some feedback. So I felt very pleased about that accomplishment.
That's pretty cool.
I never think about it, but your question made me think about it after I shared my culture thing. So
I love it.
That was fun.
Well, everything happens for a reason and nothing happens by chance. So I'm glad that you added that. So
yeah. So then on the failure side, setback.
Yeah, the failure side, which is never a failure. It's just a learning opportunity.
Yeah. Which actually is one of the things we picked up from Jim Collins that day. He said, people always position it as success or failure. And he said, I like to think of it as success or growth.
Right.
And really, anytime we're talking about failure, mistakes, learning opportunities, whatever, it's about growth. It's about our betterment. So, I'll share one. So one of the things that just is maddening for me is that because of the birth of our business being what it was, I never really had to figure out the client acquisition machine. Like I didn't have to do that. We were fishing from this little pond of our business, right? There were tens of thousands of small businesses using our software. And so to pick off some of that group who was ready for scaling help, it was really easy.
Sure.
So as soon as I bought the business and we spun it out, we just saw the revenue start to drop, right? Because I had a community of members, and as they attrited out, as they left, I didn't have the acquisition machine that I needed. And so we dropped, and within the next 2 years, we dropped from, it was a $1.5 million business. We dropped down to 900,000 that first year, 720,000 that next year. And then it was COVID the next year. And I
Wow.
thought we were on our way for 450. Like I just saw it keep dropping. And that was completely due to a failure on my part to learn what it took to market and sell. Like I just didn't,
Yeah.
like I'm not that guy, right? Like I know what I know.
Right.
And that's a classic thing. I'm a classic technician who didn't know how to do the marketing and sales. And so I watched as my successful business just drop, drop, drop. Well, the pandemic invited us to pivot or
Yeah.
die, basically, like figure this out or be gone.
Sure.
And thankfully, we did. We did figure it out. We did something completely different. It forced us to. And so that year, instead of dropping some more, we were flat. We were 720 again. And by the next year, we were back up to seven figures. So the failure on my part was the failure to recognize without the market or the external conditions forcing me to
Right.
figure it out. Like I just watched as we just burned up cash. We wasted a couple years of opportunity because I don't know. I think I knew it was important. I felt the urgency. I was trying to get it right, but it wasn't until the forcing function of survive, like this is the survival point,
Right.
that then I finally did. So I wish that I would have seen it or responded to it differently before. I saw us dropping, but I just didn't. I don't know. I don't know why the pandemic had such a forcing function on me to like really actually get me to change.
Well, if you didn't change, you wouldn't be in a business today, right? I mean,
Right.
that's the reality for most companies. They either pivoted and they, rode out the storm and now they're thriving, or they didn't. And I think what you're demonstrating in that awareness, Brett, is that you can never stop marketing, right? A company can never stop marketing because whether it's the pandemic, it's a competitor, it's new technology, the fact of the matter is there's something always coming that's going to impact somebody's business some way. And
Mm.
so by continuing to, think as a marketer, I mean, I really think that's the kind of the thing I take away from what you said. Because there's going to be things that you can control, which kind of agreed to that your awareness. And then there's things that you couldn't control, like the pandemic. So that's a great, to me, that's a great takeaway. Even, for me and our businesses, it's a great takeaway. So let me ask you this one last question, and then we're going to flip to really picking your brain on how you're impacting business owners today. You've mentioned a couple of mentors, obviously Jim Collins, and do you have any other people that you follow? Maybe you don't know personally, but any other mentors or people that you follow that you think would be important for people to kind of take a look at?
Yeah, and this comes from my lens, admittedly, of being a geek when it comes to how organizations function, right?
Sure.
But some of Jim Collins' work fits right in line with that, so that's why I like it so much. But there's another guy named Patrick Lencioni with the
Yep.
Table Group that I just love his stuff. If I were to have chosen a path to do like what he does, I mean, it looks and feels very familiar to me. Like
Sure.
this is the stuff that I would teach in the way I would teach it. Like I really like this stuff.
Yes.
So Patrick Lencioni is awesome. And then on the business owner front, I think all of us should have advisors and mentors. I have two right now. One is that CEO of that $100 million company I was talking about. His name is Clayton Mask, and that company is called Keep. Many people in the small business world know it. It used to be called Infusionsoft, but that's the company where I had that growth experience and where my business was born. And he became a lifelong friend. I spent 10 years helping him as his right hand. Now he's an advisor to me and really an honorary co-founder of this business that I now own. So Clayton Mask is an advisor, and then I work with a guy locally here that does the Sandler. He teaches the Sandler sales methodology. His name is Mike Toney. Shout out to Mike Toney here in the Phoenix area. He's incredible. He's a mentor to me on the sales side, where I'm not those aren't my natural gifts.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I have a business advisor. I've got a sales coach, and then I am part of a CEO peer group that helps me in other ways.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's funny. I knew the name, Clayton's name, and now I know where from because I was an Infusionsoft client for quite a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
And,
Clate. It's like plate with a C. Clate.
yeah, exactly. So, it's small world, right? Small world. Okay. So really, Brett, all this been great so far. And yet I really want to talk about what you're doing with the lead entrepreneurs. And so it's a mastermind group, right?
Yeah. So we have the mastermind pieces as part of it.
Okay. Tell us what it is.
Yeah. It's three main legs to what we do. We've got the scaling content. So based on our own experience scaling a business, we know what it looks like to do that well. And so this organization development and leadership development approach to scaling businesses, we have some content.
Okay.
We have coaching on the implementation of that content, and then we have a community, which includes peer mastermind kind of stuff. So it's a comprehensive content coaching community approach to that 7-figure growth journey from 1 million to 10 million plus. That's what we do.
So let's take, I want to walk through, I always like to do this where I take an example thinking about a business that, an owner that might be listening. Let's take a landscape company. And let's say that I'm the owner of the landscape company. I want to scale my business, right? So that's kind of the backdrop. And you can apply to any business. It doesn't have to be landscape. But when you first come in contact with businesses, is there a commonality in like categories where they struggle? Do you see kind of
so much commonality? Yeah, Pat, great question. And it comes from a place of a lot of experience. So much commonality. In fact, one of the hard things from our marketing is that we've never chosen to go into a specific vertical, like
right,
landscaping, for example, which is a good one. We partner with somebody who has a mastermind in landscaping because he likes our content. So he leverages our content for their mastermind to give them the 7-figure scaling help that they need. So I know the landscaping industry a little bit,
sure.
but my point is whether I'm talking to landscapers, a lighting company, a personal injury law firm, a cleaning company, a software company, a marketing agency, and we've helped all those types of businesses. There are stage specific things that happen. When I say stage specific, as businesses grow, in our view, there are very defined stages they're growing through. And in the 1 to 3 million stage, as we define it, and 3 to 10 million stage, so there's two in that 7-figure space. There are very common things that they're struggling with, very, I guess, known and practical chunks of work for them to do to get through that stage. So yeah, very common. Would you like to dive into some of those?
Yeah, I'd love to hear like the top 2 or 3 stages.
Yeah, let's
or not stages, but commonality. Like
where commonality, and let's stick with this 1 to 3 million stage, so we don't mix it up.
Yep.
So in the 1 to 3 million stage, very, very common. This will not be surprising to you, Pat, or to anybody experiencing this right now. Very common for somebody like me, a self-proclaimed technician who's built a business where they are part of the value delivery, right? They are still so connected. They're like one with the machine of the business that they've built, right?
Right.
And so we have to figure out how to do this delicate operation. It's like separating Siamese twins, right? Like you were born conjoined twins, and now we got to figure out how to separate you guys. The business deserves to have life on its own without the business owner, and the business owner deserves to have a life that is disconnected from the business. Doesn't mean they shouldn't be compatible, supporting one another, etc. But we've got to do this tricky separation thing, and a lot of business owners really struggle with that.
Yeah, they do. And I came from an industry in real estate where real estate agents for a long time would not embrace growth from the standpoint of it's about me, it's about my marketing, it's about my name, it's about my logo. And what that did was impact their ability to grow. And what happened, in my opinion, because I started in real estate a long time ago, and in fact, when computers were just coming to the forefront, just a long time ago, is that a new generation of business owners came into real estate, college educated, and they just changed the thinking of real estate. And so what people started doing is building businesses versus just building a career. And that transition, I absolutely can understand how that is and see that struggle, if you may. So what's the second big commonality?
Yeah, and it's related, but the commonality of not getting clear, and sometimes it's just because they don't know, because they don't know what they don't know,
Right.
but not getting clear about the hats that they should keep as the business owner.
Yeah.
So they find a lot of value in the performance that they can deliver, and a real estate agent is a great example. Like, they are the business at first; they're the full engine of revenue, right? And
Right.
the fulfillment, like it's all in them.
Yeah, they wear all the hats.
Yeah. And so we have to figure out, how do we get more intentional about what we're actually creating with the business? So most of us get sucked into reactive mode instead of creative mode, and we're reacting to the thing that we've already built. Like, it's known, it's familiar. I know my place in it. I know how to add value. I know how to do everything right in the business. And we have to organize work in a way that we can start giving those pieces to others. And so the three hats that I want to share with your audience that they should keep as a 7-figure business owner is the hat of setting the vision. And we can talk more about what that means. The hat of building the team to go achieve that vision. It's the hat of making sure we have the resources we need to achieve that vision. So it's vision, and then the people and the resources to be able to go achieve that vision. Like, that's your job. If you want to elevate out of the producer role and become the capable business building leader, you gotta be responsible for those three things, and you got to build the team that can do all the rest.
Yeah. So, in some of the things we do with organizations, we'll put a CEO in a room and we'll ask them the question, what do you do, during the day most often? And we identify the top 15, 20 things they do. And overall, and then we'll say, okay, so what are the 4 or 5 that you do most often? And we circle those. And then we say, what are the most 4 or 5 that you enjoy doing? And of course, the circles are always different, which is why a lot of entrepreneurs are unhappy at what they do once their business starts scaling, because they didn't define what you just talked about. And that is that, what is my role going to be, moving forward. And so let's take that piece. I love that, because there's certain things you never give away, right? So you mentioned, you wanted to talk a little bit about the vision. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and we come across varying levels of I don't know, greatness when it comes to setting the vision. When we meet with business owners, we have some that are like pretty amazing at that already, and others who
Right.
just haven't ever looked up and out. They've been looking down and in so much.
Yep.
They've never really done that. So, but regardless of the type of business owner, we always start with the purpose, the values, and the mission of that business. Total clarity, ideally co-created. And so I want to say a little bit about that. Meaning, let's bring our if not our full team along on that journey of articulating that vision. Certainly the key team members that are going to help us create and build this.
Right.
So purpose is all about the why. Like, why does this business exist beyond the financial piece? Like, of course we want to grow revenue. We want great profits. And I want that for every business owner out there. And if it's only financial, if it's only transactional in nature, it can never have the power to really fuel people's excitement, fuel their passion, keep them loyal and connected to what you're doing and growing and learning together. If it's just about the numbers for you, it'll be just about the numbers for them. And they'll be, the commitment levels at that transactional level. You never quite unlock the real power that's there if you identify a powerful purpose for your business. So we start with purpose. We go to values, which is all about the how we operate with one another, or the who belongs on this team. We always talk about culture fit out there. Like, you got to hire people that fit. This is what makes them fit. The shared identity of that purpose and the values. It's those core things. And we can and I believe should be different in lots of other ways, right? Like, I'm not against diversity. I'm all for diversity, except for purpose and values. We need to have oneness. We have complete unity around that stuff.
Yeah.
And that doesn't get intentional time, often doesn't get articulated well.
Right.
And it keeps a business from really gaining momentum, because then you have like a revolving door on your team.
Yeah.
You have people coming in and out, and you can't ever really get established and get going and build momentum. And it's so much easier when you've got a consistent team full of great people who get along with each other because they share values and they're like pulling with each other. Anyway, I'm big on purpose and values, as you can tell, and then a very specific destination oriented mission, not an open ended. We're going to be the end all be all to all these types of customers. Great, great scores in the industry. Like all that's awesome, but get really clear about where are we going over the next 3 years is my favorite time frame.
Sure.
For the next 3 years, what are we creating? And that level of intentionality with your team does a world of good in aligning effort, in aligning thoughts. Like we're all pulling the same way, and the resources start to come together to support it. So that's where we start with everyone, is that total clarity, and it's usually missing in this 1 to 3 million stage, and it's key to going past it.
Well, and when you talked about the right fit, if you may, for all the reasons that you define, when you don't make the right additions to the team, then what happens is the people you really want to not leave end up leaving because they lose confidence, right?
That's
And
right.
they lose confidence in the leader and the process and where we're going, and they want to be a part of something different there.
And
So,
even if they don't lose confidence, let's say they're still excited about the future,
yeah,
they're frustrated with the path. The journey is
right.
no fun because I can't stand the way we put up with this behavior over
Yeah.
here. I don't, or so and so's not pulling their weight or whatever. Anyway, you're spot on.
And that's where entrepreneurship is born, right? Because they go, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
I see this as clear as day. I'm just going to go, start my own deal.
That's right.
I mean,
You train up your competition.
Yeah, exactly. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It happens all the time. So let me you do these masterminds, if you may, these group get-togethers, and what's the biggest thing somebody takes away from being a part of that environment?
Yeah, we actually host quarterly events. We have an annual, one of those events is our annual Elite Leadership Summit.
Okay.
And so there's really two levers we're working with when we're trying to scale a business, this 7-figure space. One lever is organization development. It's all the systems, the structure, the process kind of stuff. The other lever is leadership. It really is. It's like, I got to take this awesome entrepreneur, maybe master at their craft, and teach them how to be a great leader. And so we have one event a year that's about leadership. So what people will experience if they go to one of our events is they'll experience a very intentional program design. Like there will be content at one of these events that's very specific to the 7-figure scaling challenges that we see all the time. So a 7-figure business would come to one of our events and go hyper relevant because that's all we do. Right now, they won't say, here's, for example, this is not a cleaning industry thing or a landscaping industry thing. So we won't get into business models and any one, or like customer service scripts or things for any one of those businesses. So I do think there's industry specific offerings out there that are quite powerful. But as far as the real scaling work to the business and the leaders, I don't know of another place that has that 7-figure focus the way that we do. And so they would get some ideas at each of those events, but then they also get the peer mastermind benefit of we're diving into each other's businesses. We're learning about some of the challenges in each other's businesses. We're helping one another. So there's some built-in peer benefit. There's some of the content scaling expertise at those events. And it's just clarity. People get out of their day to day and they come and get some clarity because they're thinking about their business. They're not in it. And that helps too.
I love it. I love it. So I want you to be thinking about this, Brett. I'm going to ask you a question kind of as we put a ribbon on our conversation here. And the two parts, actually. The first part is, and this will be the last question, is what haven't you shared with us that you really would love to share as the last thought? But the one before that, I'm kind of prepping you to give you some time here, but so I'm an entrepreneur and I'm thinking, I don't need any of this. Like I've got this roadblock in my mind that I don't need coaching. I don't need consulting. I don't need a mastermind. I don't need to take more time away from my business. How do you respond to somebody with that thinking?
I just ask them, or I might say something like, so you're perfectly happy with the results you're getting today? Oh, well, no, I can figure that out myself. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
I believe that you can. Like, how long will it take you to learn some of the things that you could learn from
Sure.
somebody else sooner?
Yeah. Or how long have you been thinking that way? And and so what, why
Yeah.
haven't you executed up to this point?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're either perfectly happy with the level of growth and profitability and team environment and home life, like everything that you care about is where you want it to be,
Yeah.
or it's not where you want it to be, but you think you already have the answers. But if you have the answers, why haven't you made the changes? Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of line of thinking I would take.
Or I know I need to change, and you don't know my business, right?
Yeah.
You don't know my business,
You
Brett.
don't know
Come
my
on now.
business, right? We're
Yeah, you
different.
don't know my business. I
I
always
do.
love
I
that.
do get that we're different a lot, and like
Yeah. We're
I
different.
don't know your specific industry. I don't know your model,
Yeah.
but I do know this stage of business inside and out, and I've seen hundreds of businesses across more industries than would be useful to name,
Sure.
to like see that there are patterns of things there are predictable things that people go through at each stage.
Yep.
And if you're content with your current stage, or you feel like you already know what needs to happen and you're just waiting for the right time to make it happen,
Yep.
more power to you. But
Yeah. Last time I checked, net income on a P&L is net income. I don't think it changes per industry.
right.
Okay, Brett. So what haven't you shared with us that you would like to share with us before we go? Anything?
Yeah, I would like to share that you don't have to be exhausted and uncertain as a business owner.
Mm,
Sometimes it does feel very lonely. It feels like the full weight of it is on you.
right.
There are ways to get your team to engage at a level where you feel actual lift. Like there's a visceral experience that your shoulders feel less burdened
Yeah.
as you are more capably able to give ownership to people. I'm not talking about equity. I'm talking about engagement to team members who are very clear about why we're doing this, very clear about how we operate with one another, very clear about where we're going and the role that they play in all of that. You can get more out of the current team as you improve in your leadership. Um, there's so much leverage in your current team that you're leaving on the table, and some of those need to go. Right, some of your team members aren't the right people, and they do need to go. But by and large, people are good. They can grow. You can help them get there. And when you do, I mean, the payoff is incredible. I would just want to leave the idea that I want to instill belief, just like you figured out sales and marketing. When you got this thing off the ground, you didn't know everything that you know today. You figured things out, you did it. Leadership and scaling a business is no different, but you do have to put the time and energy into it. You do have to do the work. Everybody who does reaps the benefits. It's not rocket science, but it has to be. You have to change. You have to do something.
Absolutely. And you have to continue to grow, right? I mean, you never arrive. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, thank you so much for all that you've shared. There's some amazing, amazing content today, and we always appreciate the contributions that our guests make. And certainly today you nailed it, and so we do appreciate that. And so, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Pat. It was fun to be here with you. I can tell you're putting out great stuff in these shows. The best way to reach us is at our website, which is GROW, with WITH, elite, ELITE.com. Putting elite entrepreneurs was not a good idea for a URL, so we decided to call it growwithelite.com.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, and I've been there, so there's some great content there as well, and we'll make sure we put that in the show notes. So thank you so much. And so, listeners, we really do appreciate your support, and we do what we do because you give us the feedback that you enjoy it and it's valuable, And B, you share it with your friends on whatever social media platform, whatever podcast platform, wherever we are, you share it. So we really appreciate that. So Brett, thanks so much for today. And we do really, truly appreciate you and your time. And listeners, thank you so much for all your support. Take care, Brett.
Thank you. It was great being here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining Destination Business Freedom with Pat Mancuso. May the insights and strategies shared guide you towards financial prosperity and personal freedom. Continue to navigate boldly. Until next time, keep transforming challenges into achievements. Farewell and stay the course.